Hello all, I'm Craig from Economic Board Games and welcome to the channel. If you guys have not been aware, I've been working through my top 100 economic board games of all time for me, and you have joined us at 22 number 11. We are nearly there. So these 10 games today, outstanding. You know, each of these on certain given days maybe creep up into that 10, but this is where they are. Let's dive straight in. So we have at first a game called Future Inc. Now, it's really hard to find this game, and it's such a small little box, really surprisingly small for what, you know, this game packs a massive punch as such during the gameplay. And this one for me was a really pleasant surprise. It has such a unique pricing mechanism with supply and demand in it that is so up there. It's definitely one of the best, if not the best, supply and demand in price with a market that I'm aware of. And it's a 2 to 4 player game. I've tried it 2 players and 3 players. Definitely works better with more players, and it's going to take you 30 to 60 minutes, it says here. Personally, I think that's 60 to 90 minutes because there's a lot of crunchy decisions here. Now, the game in essence is about becoming the most successful investor in the near future, but pretty much you are just trying to collect these cards and build your engine, and there's multi-use cards. Are you going to use them for the price or the product? And that sort of manipulates your victory point conditions at the end of the game. And you need to be competitive with your price. If you're not, well, you're not going to sell that number of products to the market. And if you've played something like Arkwright, the card game, it has similarities to that need to fill the number of products versus the price competitively against your opponents. And that's what this game does. Now, the actual look of it, for me, it could be improved. It could be like an industrial theme slapped on. It's got, as the game says, a very futuristic look to it, which can be convoluted at points when you're trying to really hone and focus on, you know, the icons or the actual prices, and you're kind of trying to digress amongst all the artwork where that is. And it becomes clear, but, you know, for me, if this had a better artwork, something like Furnace, then it would easily be top 10. But the mechanics in this, the mechanisms are it just really works. And each player is like, right, I need to get this competitively priced so I can actually sell this, because, you know, if I don't, I'm not making that money, and it's superior just make the most money. You've also got these cards you can play out at the top, and that manipulates things as well. So I just think it's one of the best small economic games that's out there. But yeah, Future Inc. really, really highly regard this one. Next up then, we are going heavy complexity, a big sprawling game. Well, actually not that big and sprawling, it's quite condensed and all the actions are on the board here, but Ground Floor. Now, this is the first edition. I have yet to try the second edition, which is such a hard game to find. And the reason I want to find the second edition, because it's slightly more balanced, it says, but which would probably make it another top 10 game, because Ground Floor, the first edition, is still excellent. Now, in this game, you're essentially CEOs, you're running your corporation, and it really feels like you are doing so. You are spending time, which is your resource, to go and do a host of actions. You've got actions on your board which you can develop, you know, a resource, or you can get more efficient, a host of things you can do. You can then go to these actions on the main board, which is delayed because that happens, in the next phase. And there's things like going to meetings to give you more research. There's going out there to try and actually sell your products. There's going to build your skyscraper and get another levels on there, which develop your engine even further by giving you more options to do and spend your time. So there's so many nice, crunchy, competitive areas to go in this game. And it says it plays 90 to 150 minutes. I think that's really about right. It's bang on. I've played it 2 players, 3 players, and 4 players. It does go 2 players all the way up to 6. I don't think I'd really want to try above 4 players, 4 or more, just purely because there's a lot to do. You go into certain places and then you're trying to calculate who's won this and who's actually getting that, and the turn order, because it's not a typical clockwise, it's different players at different points as to how much reputation and prestige they have. So I think 3 players is probably the real sweet spot of this one. And time range, up to 2 hours. Now, it is heavy complexity, and essentially the game is, as I've already mentioned, building corporations to dominate the challenging market in the modern day business world. Very, very dry description, that one, but it looks very graphical. It doesn't look like a game you'd probably just walk past it and think, oh, I'm not trying that. But such a clever economic business game here. You're talking elite, you're talking efficiency, getting the most out of your time, and where do you commit, and it just all plays in with a nice dynamic amongst all the players, and that satisfying feel of building your skyscraper, and that's kind of needed to get to an end game trigger, and some of the powerful abilities and benefits from doing so. Now, the second edition, I believe, when I say more balanced, I don't mean this is broken. I just mean there's certain occasions, very rarely, where you can have moments of the demand is forecasted. And if you reveal it and it's not as strong as maybe anticipated, and everyone's gone all in, you can lose a little bit of your resource. But hey, that mimics what a lot of business activities can, be non-fruitful in real life. But such an amazing game, this one, Ground Floor. Next up then, we are still going heavy, and for me, this game is very special. If it could get its act together and get a really approachable edition out there, which may be the latest version, it would easily be top 10. And it's called Indonesia. So what a fascinating, elegant, amazingly fluent game amongst the players. And what you're doing is basically producing and shipping goods, and it says in a dynamic economic system in the Indonesian map here. And that is pure and simple what you are doing. There is a lot of heaviness to sort of admin and sort of what you're meant to do when. So once you've got your head around this city needs these requirements to upgrade, or to ship here, you need these requirements, or what you're actually doing on this table to the side to get, bigger improvements to improve your bid, where your money goes on your bank and your cash. And there is a lot of admin, but the actual gameplay, just literally moving produce from these plantations through your ships, other people's ships, whatever it may be, to try and fulfill these cities, to just make that and get money, that's just incredible. It does that so well. The niggles, it's just, there's a few additions now. There's a few different twists, not massive, but just between them with the types of components or where they go. And the way the actual text is on some of the versions, you're really struggling to figure out where is this location. But as gameplay and what it brings, it just does it so well. Now, I've played it I played it 3 players actually, 3 and 4 players. Plays 2 to 5. More players, the better in this one. There's more activity, there's more mergers, there's more companies, there's more options and routes, and ousting your opponents to get the most profitable spots there. So for moving products, moving and making profit, and equally the element of expanding your plantations in this is just so good. And the caps and the limitations, and you've maybe not done the merger at the right time and someone else beats you to it. It's just great. It is a bit cutthroat. It is not 18xx, but it's that sort of feel and heaviness where you can be pushed out a little bit, and you need to fight for everything in this game. But if they get their act together and I think we're probably on the 4th edition now maybe, and it just make the board more ergonomically pleasing and just a little bit more approachable, this game should be played by so many more people. It's a typical Splotter game here, but yes, Indonesia, super game. Right. Next, we are going a little bit lighter. We'll have a breather here. So we're going Ponzi Scheme. Now, I brought you guys a review on this recently, and it's just so good. And I'm so happy they've brought out a newer, revised version, which is the same game. I'll be honest, I did probably prefer the look of the older one, that sort of dark navy blues. I haven't tried that one, but this one, actually plays really, really well. Well, I knew it was going to play well. The look of it works. And you're looking at the front cover, there's the pinks and the greens, and I was a bit like, this looks a bit quirky, but actually it works. And the gameplay is just so good, you can even overlook, how it looks. And in this game, it's based on a Ponzi scheme, which is a real life manipulation of getting the most money from investors and kind of tricking them almost, and you're having to pay them ludicrous dividends, which is crazy. And you're using that new investment to pay existing dividends for existing investors. And you're continually having to fight for more investment, more funds to pay these dividends off before someone at some point will not be able to pay them off. They go bankrupt. Everyone looks at how many shares in different corporations you have. They're cumulative. and you get points and see who the winner is. You can also attain points from some of these consumer goods, which is very hard, but if you can do that, they're secured and in your stock there. Now, it's 3 to 5 players, 60 to 90 minutes, bang on, and I think more players works. It does work really well for 3. 4 or 5 players is really where you want this, because there's so much bartering with you handing this black leather wallet across, and the magic moments it creates as you try and take shares off opponents, because there's this whole limit as to the funding you acquire. If you get 1 share, you can get access to this level funding, 2 to this level, 3 to this funding. Anything more, you have no access to funding. So there's these moments where you've acquired someone's 3rd share and they're like, I needed that 3rd share because I needed to acquire enough funding from that level, or maybe you've now allowed them to do that because they can now take a 3rd share. So the mathematical calculations and that amongst the players is so special in this game, as well as this rondel of timing and paying back, because once you pay back one of these dividends, it just goes on again. It gets budged along 3 spaces maybe, and you're continually fighting against trying to raise enough money but just outdo your opponents, because that is it. If you can, maybe you have $1 left, but if someone else went bankrupt first, you are still in with a chance, and you've been uber efficient with maybe buying these victory points and consumer goods and the number of shares you have. So Ponzi Scheme for me, a very special game, similar to that kind of craziness of Wall Street, which was known as Panic on Wall Street, which I featured in my last top 10. So yep, super game this one, Ponzi Scheme. Next up, we have a game on first impressions I was curious about, and mainly due to the look of it, the Renaissance feel. And it's called Amalfi Renaissance. Now, this is the revised version. The first one didn't do too well. I've not tried that, but this one, it's just elevated the whole game. The whole package is super. Now, it's a 1 to 4 player game. 2 free players works so well. 4, I think I'd steer away from, maybe because of, AP and just the length of play. Solo yet to try, but I'm curious about that. Medium weight complexity, says 60 to 120 minutes, and I do think 90 minutes is about right. And you get a lot of game in 90 minutes here, which is why it is up here. It's very rare to find games that give you, complexity-wise versus gameplay in a short time frame that, and this does that. Now, what you're trying to do then, it's a unique, mechanism where you've got multi-use out of these ships. So they're going to be used as resources, or you're going to send them out for actions, and you're constantly battling in your head as to how to maximize these and where you need to go, because it's worker placement, but then they're used as resources. So that minimalistic look to the game is really nice. You're not constantly moving resources. It's just a ship in one of your top sections here, which represents spices or tea or whatever it may be. And you're just trying to manage these resources to maybe get more ships out to give you more stuff. Maybe you're trying to get more lighthouses out to get more passive income with this bread. You've got families, so this asymmetry at the beginning, and each faction, each family has a subtle strength on the board, whether it's to do with the cards at the top, which are a host of cultural artifacts. Maybe it's to do with your efficiency on bread, whatever it may be. There's differences from game to game, which I really enjoy. I've played this like 4 or 5 times. Every game feels slightly different. Also, the objectives, the end game and round-to-round objectives, just change what you're striving for in a big way. Now, I know a lot of games have objectives and cards you're trying to achieve, but they're massive in this. They really dictate how you need to utilize your family to go and get the most out of these. Equally, these round-to-round actions you can use once and melee them, so crazily powerful, because you can have a really uber efficient engine with sending maybe 1, 2, 3 ships out, and you haven't developed all these ships, but these red card actions just really work and make you get the most out of the game rather than doing the same thing from game to game. So for me, Amalfi Renaissance as an overall package just provides so much game in a really reasonable playing time here. So yes, highly regarded by me. Right, next we are going lower complexity. It's an older one. We're talking 2008 here, but it just does what I want from a game, and it's called Jet Set, which you're probably looking at it thinking, what? How is this up there? Looking at the cover art, looking at the board, it is bland looking. It is dull. It could be maybe look better. But this for me mixes, Ticket to Ride Europe, which yes isn't economic, but it's got so much phenomenon. Everyone loves it as just a quick, light game to play. This isn't Ticket to Ride. This is a economic upper level of that. You've got games like Airlines Europe. This does that slightly better for me. You've got Pan Am. Again, this does it slightly better. It just not better, they're good in their own niches, but as an overall game that mimics and outs those sort of 3 titles, this is the one I would go to, and the one I would recommend all day long. Now, the game in essence is about chain and ease links across the board. Sound familiar? And you're trying to profit from these. You've got certain combos. If you're putting your planes out to get these routes, you then own the routes, but other players can use those routes. So it's flexible. They will pay you for those. You're trying to meet these journey cards. And this is where it really steps up for me, is that once you've completed a journey, it's not just a journey done, it's giving you income. You put these free tokens on when you trigger income, which is an action. So you have to be uber efficient over when do I want to trigger action? When do I want to go and get these routes? When do I want to go and claim a route? So there's really, only 4 or 5 things you can do. But when you trigger income, you're getting 5 money for one of these tokens. When those 3 tokens are exhausted, that isn't it. You still get 2 income from each one of these routes you've claimed. So you're trying to certainly build this income passiveness. So when you trigger it, you're getting like 15, 20. And certainly as the game evolves, you might have an edge up on your opponents, and you're certainly building more infrastructure. You've got some of the better routes in the middle here. And all everyone's trying to do is just get victory points. And that is the way, the journey to do that, is by getting that passive income. And eventually someone will trigger once the 2 vacation cards are out. They'll have completed their long route and you can be rewarded highly for that. But equally, there's other ways to go and win. It's hard, but it can be achieved by doing some of these sort of middle routes that give you 7 points, 5 points, and you can add those up. But going for the long route is generally more profitable with the VPs. Now, there is expansions for this as well, which I've yet to try, but it could even elevate the game more. But for me, it just allows a really good player range of 2 to 6. And I've played this 2, 3, and 4. And what made this stand out for me is that it really works with 2 as well. I used to play at 4. I then tried with 2 and 3. I was like, wow, this game is really stepping up with the player range here. And that's why it's stuck in, such a high position for me in my collection. And yeah, Chris Gold here, the designer, I can't recommend it enough. And you can probably pick it up really cheap because no one knows about it. Right, next up. Fairly new game for me, and it is Shot Up because it is such a well done worker placement game. It's called Union Stockyards. Now, you're going to probably struggle to get this one. It's quite pricey, but what this achieves in another game in a short playing time of about 90 minutes is superb. It is there alongside Amalfi Renaissance 3. 2 amazing games. I can get out. Everyone has a great experience in about 90 minutes, and this almost takes worker placement back to a time when you could just enjoy putting out a worker and getting something. No tricks and things to really think about. It's just, you can really think about, where am I going? And it's amazingly made it competitive and challenging amongst all the players to get to these spots. It's just done it really well. Now, the game in essence, it says about building your business empire and manipulating markets to be the meat packing king of Chicago. If you're a vegan, vegetarian, you don't want to play this game. It's all about meat. It's all about processing different types of cattle. And there's a little market, and that works so well. It's rigid during the round, but it fluctuates after the round by the quantity of cattle left, how many times people have, slaughtered these animals. How much is left determines how much comes in next round. How much the price is determines things. So the market, I love it. Similar to sort of Clans of Caledonia here. You've also got those tight worker placement spots. Are you going to go and get these little buildings out, which potentially give you more points on the side here? Or are you going to go and actually build these updated buildings, which you need because they give you these blocks on this sort of square mile area? And that's great because they give you ways to set collect these little icons, which gets you, more capabilities at the market. And you want to get a difference on the market because when you sell or slaughter a cattle, it's very limited money in this. It's just the difference between the cost price and the price you're selling is pure profit. You've got this sort of interesting token that flips over, and it's subtle, but it works, and you're competing over first player and then trying to differentiate what that worker placement spot's going to be. The actual cards, you play like 7 years, the cards themselves have historical facts on and an actual, sometimes a worker placement spot to go to, which mixes things up. So it's just a lot of very simple things, but done elegantly well with a lot of variability that really makes it certainly different from game to game. I've played it 4, 5 times now, and each game has just had a very different historical feel to it, but just such a pleasure to play. It brings worker placement back, like I've said, to things like, it's not economic, but like Champions of Midgard, Stone Age, just really cool economic worker placement games there. So for me, Union Stockyards, a delight to play. Right, next up. This game has actually changed its title recently, which is a bit curious. They've changed the theme, but it's known as Prosperity for me, and a very economic, cool game by Reiner Knizia, so popular designer there. And this came out in 2013. Now, if you actually search on the Geek, it's known as City of the Living. So it looks like a crazy zombie game. And they've kind of got the core sort of mechanics under there with what you're doing, but essentially it's all zombies. So ignore City of Living, try and get a copy of Prosperity if this is of interest to you. Now, why I love this game so much is because it says you're protecting your home from being encroached upon. Well, this is to do with the zombies actually, so ignore what I just said. It's basically you're taking control of a nation, and that nation has got to fight its ecological balance versus its power. And obviously, the worse you are at ecology, the more pollution you are getting out on the track, and that's bad. It's hindering your victory points, your growth. Your energy needs to provide certain energy to power your industry. And you have these cool little tiles that can come out onto your board here, and they link up with, you know, areas you can expand at the bottom if you build like rail networks and certain transport infrastructure. And basically, you're trying to power your nation here as best as you can in an eco-type style with the energy transition you can do. You don't want to be there at the end of the game with loads of coal and gas, but you can do, as long as you can, you know, negate that pollution you're getting. As well, you've got this research and you're trying to get these tiles because they differentiate between the eras. You're playing from like the 1980s, I think it is, up to 2030. So the actual improvements in technology and the developments get better. Now, after about 10, 15 games, which is probably where I'm at, it's a bit samey, but it's still lots of fun. And the key here is you're playing a nation and you feel like you're in charge of it. It's satisfying. You're certainly changing it from game to game. It does differ, and it plays quickly. 60 minutes, I think, is realistic to get this in. 90 minutes at a push, and it's lower complexity. It looks great. Don't get me started on the score track with this snake light fishing. Yep, just leave that out. Use some other score method if you can. But you get a lot of game here, and you know you're probably going to pick this up real cheap if you can even get a copy anymore. But Prosperity gives me such a great vibe for running a nation. Super, super game. Right then, we've got a lot of worker placement games here today, and this is elite. You know, this is called Viticulture Essential Edition. I wouldn't touch Viticulture, the standard one, and this game is elevated because of the Tuscany expansion. Viticulture Essential Edition is definitely a top 30, 40 game on its own, but with Tuscany, with some of the newer content that's been out and coming out, it's just so excellent with that expansion. And if you're not familiar with the game, it's basically you're creating the most prosperous winery in Italy from the Tuscany vineyard you've inherited. So you're using these workers, you're going out in these different seasons. You start off in summer or spring, whatever it was. You've got this Grande worker who lets you give you flexibility to manipulate. If you've been hindered from a spot, you can use the Grande worker to actually get something out of it. But be careful, because if you use it early, you know, you've got the summer to go through, you've got the autumn, you've got the winter. So you're trying to really work hardest to do everything you need to maximize profits and VPs. And everything's just clear cut on this board. Are you going to go and try and build infrastructure, which gets maybe more options to get these vineyards harvested and the actual vineyards in there in your field? You then want to get them harvested into these tokens. You then want to get the tokens to develop over the years, or whatever ways you can to get them into your cellars. But then you need the capacity on your cellar to make these wines and fit them in to then meet these contracts. So there's layers on layers, which is great. It all looks super. It's a Stone Meyer Games, which is always bringing us great production value. Plays 1 to 6, and I have played a lot of this with solo, and it's such a good game. 6 players, I wouldn't dare try that myself. This is, you know, solo up to about 3, maybe even 4 at a push. But the Tuscany expansion, yes, it elevates this little map on the side and you're getting victory points. It changes out some cards and gives you a bit more starting variability at the beginning. And those cards, just some of them can break the game, no doubt about it, but lots more flavour. So if you like the first edition, Viticulture Essential Edition, you have to try Tuscany. But overall, such a great package, this one. And yeah, I really, really enjoy Viticulture. Next up then, and this is the last one today, which was a really tough call. Again, this one could have easily made the top 10. It's called Shark. So it's 1987 it came out. There is a few different editions. I've got the Ravensburger edition from 1991, which kind of looks like this with the sort of numbers on the board. It's a bit more stylized than the graphic sort of first edition I had before, so I've almost upgraded it, if you can believe that this is an upgraded version. There is a newer version with kind of, it looks a bit, I think it's from Korea, and it looks a bit more, you know, pops out of the colours and the shark on the actual front, which is the cover art you can see here. Haven't tried that one yet. There is, when I say different versions, there's one where you can have a central spot and then the other 5 are around it. The one I've got is just 1 to 6, and it's still competitive, and I've used that word a lot today, but it is, and it is a bit more cutthroat this than games like Acquire or Big Boss, in the sense of your tokens get, you know, removed from the board. They don't merge like in Acquire. So, you know, once you've hit a certain size and you take over someone else, those go from the game, they go back in the box, which is an easy rule to miss. So this one, you are placing, you know, your markers on the board, you're causing radical changes in stock prices, and you're trying to invest wisely. Now, you're trying to get the most, you know, capitalization from these shares. Once it hits the top, one of the shares, it kind of triggers into the game, and then you're selling out your shares for the most money. And that's pretty much it. But how you do that and manipulate the board to change the states of these companies, and when are you going to sell, when are you going to buy? And that's what's great about this one. You can sell. You can't sell easily in Big Boss. Acquire, you can only sell when a merger happens. But this one, you can freely sell up to, you know, as many times as you want, and buy up to 5 on your turn before you roll the dice or after. You can even house rule certain things in the dice and use those variations in rules. But the board develops. It looks like very simple and like, what's Craig talking about? This is just a graphical design. And where's the gameplay? It develops. And I wouldn't really recommend this on a random game group or just random gamers. You want a close-knit group. Eventually the game will develop as more people know the game and how it works, and it's not so cutthroat with, you know, you've just sold out and then you've put your token here. And that is a little bit of luck, don't get me wrong, but the sway and the meta game in this is where the game is between, I'm looking at my opponent stacking up on red chairs. What's going on? Maybe I just follow suit. Maybe I diversify. Maybe I take a chance and just hope this green probability of that dice comes out, and then I ruin their game here. So that's where the fun is, in the meta game of what is going on between the players. Like a, you know, a massive game of poker and trying to figure out what is going to happen on this board with those spots of luck. And that's what makes this game, those memorable thematic moments of, wow, I can't believe you rolled that, and this has happened, and then that's changed that, and these shares have gone down. But then you've, you know, got this underdog story where you've made it back with the little money you've had, and you've pumped up this company. So for me, this game just achieves all of that so well. If you can find a copy, so definitely, you know, it's an older one, and it plays 2 to 6. More players, the better. I wouldn't dare try this with 2. So there we are, guys. Another 10 quality games, in my opinion, and I'm bringing you next the top 10. Can't wait for that. Thank you all for watching. See you all soon.